Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in just a few minutes here. Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in just a couple more minutes. Welcome to DocuSign API Office Hours. My name is Melissa Marsh from our Developer Programs Marketing team. I'll be moderating and running our backroom logistics today. Next slide, Erin. I'm here with Erin Jackson-Wild, a programmer writer who will be presenting and demoing, along with Paige Rossi, also a programmer writer, and Cameron Bahati, Senior Developer Support Engineer. They will both answer questions via the Q&A box throughout the session and after the demo when we open up the floor to questions. Now, before we get started, back one slide, please. Thank you. Before we get started, I have a few quick housekeeping items to go over. You are placed in listen-only mode, and this session is being recorded. You'll receive an email in about a week with a link to the webinar recording, along with other resources. Please be sure to use the Q&A button to ask questions at any time, and we'll answer via the Q&A box or let you know that we'll answer them live after the demo. To copy and save your questions and answers, simply right-click on them and copy and save to your desktop or document. Next slide, please. Sorry. All right. Is this webinar for you? This webinar is more technical in nature. If you're not a developer, you're welcome to stay, or you can check out our DocuSign 101 course. And let me that in the chat there for you. Aha. This is DocuSign.com/on-demand-webinar/DocuSign-101 for something a little less technical. Next slide, Erin. Okay, so this is our safe harbor notice. All of the values, the email addresses, the keys, secrets, tokens, and other personal information like names you might see today are for demo purposes only, and those will be deleted or revoked after the webinar. Now you should see a quick poll on your screen in just a moment. If you can answer those questions, that will help us understand where you are in your development journey and enable us to customize content for this and future webinars. Okay, that is it for housekeeping. Aaron, take it away.
Thanks, Melissa. Hey, everyone. My name is Aaron Jackson Wild, and I am a programmer writer on the Developer Center team for DocuSign. Today, we're going to be going over the Quickstart demo application that's powered with these various APIs, but particularly, we're going to be going over the eSignature REST API and the Rooms API. The way these launchers and Quickstart applications work is with SDKs. Specifically, today's Java demo is going to be using the Java SDK. However, it's possible to access DocuSign APIs with direct API access as well, just through our through our REST API that we have available beyond for eSignature, but also for Rooms and DocuSign Admin and DocuSign Click as well. So let's go over some of the concepts that you're going to need to know for using our API. The primary transaction that occurs is sending envelopes, and envelopes contain documents that are associated with recipients who will fill them out typically with tabs, and tabs can have signature data or calculated fields or other logic that is generated as well. That is automatically populated from your input. Finally, we're going to be going over rooms. And so the concept of a room is a place where a transaction, real estate or mortgage transaction can occur. And so the documents that are all associated with that and multiple envelopes that are associated with it can all be housed in the same room that is associated with your recipients for your mortgage or real estate use case. And so documents themselves can, as you would expect, can be one or more types. Typically, they're PDF documents or Word documents that will be received, but other form types can be taken as well, like Excel data and image data. The different data types can be accepted. And what will happen is the DocuSign API will convert them into a PDF for use within the, like when signing and collecting signatures or data on those envelopes. We also have a responsive signing option as well that occurs where you can specify that the documents can be preserved, but then be shown in a format that's going to be compatible with signing like on your mobile device or tablet so that it preserves the styling desired. So recipient types can also, as you can imagine, you can have several. The main one obviously is going to be signers, and that's going to be who receives your envelope and signs those documents. However, you also will have carbon copy recipients who can receive a copy of the documents either completed or in flight. You have witnesses, and you have, what am I trying to say, notaries as well, and agents and editors that can also be able to accept and harness and utilize the various documents within your envelope. So I'd like to talk about what the differences are between remote versus embedded signing. Embedded signing is what will occur when we return a redirect link, and that redirect link is then opened within your application so that you can have a seamless signing experience for your customer. It will then hit a callback redirect that you've specified so that your application logic can handle things from there. The difference is that remote signing will actually just send the envelope to the email and return an envelope ID to you from the response output. Now, the key difference between these two different types is that you're going to need a client user ID associated within the API. And when you have a client user ID, the eSignature REST API knows to actually send an embedded signing envelope. And so from there are a couple of more steps that you'll need to do to get that redirect link, but I will show you those steps. And those aren't necessary here. But the key takeaway here is that if you are not receiving emails for your envelope, you may have the client user ID attribute configured with some data there. So make sure that's absent if you're trying to have an envelope that's sent through email. So to use our APIs, you're going to need to use access tokens. Access tokens are going to be generated with your integration, and we use OAuth to handle those tokens. Integration keys are basically the same as client ID in our terminology when looking at the apps and keys page. See that each application has one integration key, except some ISV applications, like on-premise apps, may need one integration key per joint customer. Integration keys can be used by any DocuSign user on any account anywhere in the world. One account is used to manage the integration key, and the keys are free. Create and manage integration keys with the admin tool in the developer account. When you're ready for production, you can promote that key to go live by simply selecting actions and starting a go live review. What we're going to be showing you today is a Quickstart application that will actually generate the integration key for you in your developer account. Today's demo overview is actually going to be encompassing Java, and so we'll be using the Java SDK. I prefer using Visual Studio Code when working with my applications, but that's simply because I'm working with different languages. What I'm going to show you is going to be completely compatible with IntelliJ or Eclipse as well. We're going to be going through some of the Quickstart examples, and if you've got some time, I'm also going to be going over a Rooms example as well. So let's get going. So to get started, you're going to want to go to developers.docusign.com. And this is just going to be the front-facing page. Here, let's just show you, right? So just kind of from here, you can get started, and then just click Start Building. And as you can see, this is the page that will appear here. You'll want to log in or create a developer account, which is free to get started here. I've already downloaded a Quickstart before we got started here today. So you wouldn't be wasting the time to watch it download with me. US, then 11, 8, 22. And so I would just click this here and next. And then you see you actually have different types that you can select here. I've been selecting multiple, so I have both sets of OAuth types. However, both of these are all compatible and fine just the same. It's just that you can choose to have JWT grant or authorization code grant, or both. And so clicking that and clicking next, you can download that. But before opening this, let's take a look at the apps and keys page, so you can kind of get a better idea of what's there. And so within this apps and keys page, this is where your API account ID and your user ID are going to be located. And these are going to be distinctive and unique for your developer dashboard account, like for your developer account. Every single time you create an API key, an integration, this is your integration key or your client ID. And as I stated, using the Quickstart functionality here, it will populate this on your behalf. I did create this just before getting started, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. And so for doing OAuth, authorization code grant is utilized for whenever you'll want to have your user log in every time, and they will, in exchange for logging in, they will be presented an authorization code. And that authorization code in tandem with the secret key is used with our API to generate a net access token. A service integration uses an RSA private key instead, and is actually what is also known as the JSON web token grant authentication that we offer and provide here. And you can generate a fresh RSA key. And what you'll want to do is you'll want to copy and save this private key. Here, I'll show you. And this gets generated by the Quickstart itself. See, so this one was generated here, this first one. So that's that. And then finally, you'll need these, you'll need some redirect URIs. These aren't all required. These are just all automatically populated based off of the Quickstart mechanism. If you'll notice the different kind of in paths out, you'll see that some of these are using, some of these are through C#, others are going to be through Python and Ruby, one in here is PHP. And so these are actually all of the various supporting languages and the callbacks that are associated with it. That pretty much covers that and what's going to be here in this apps and keys page, what you'll need configured to kind of have your application running. As I said, it's automatically populated when downloading and running the Quickstart. So to get started, it's as though I opened this, right, for the first time. And so like I said, I use Visual Studio Code. And within Visual Studio Code, I do have a couple of extensions. I'm using Maven for Java. And I think I'm using what was the recommended Java packages to kind of get going and started here. And the reason I did that was because it actually provides this sort of interface here with sort of these nice fill handles. And this kind of gives you a way that you can graphically use Visual Studio Code with the Java applications. So this is Maven. So what we do is we use Maven package to compile and grab all dependencies. So I'll go ahead and get that going. And as you can see, this is going to be actually manually putting in the commands that you would be filling in yourself. You see, if you were in a command prompt, you do Maven package in the directory you're using. This is specifically because it's using the fill handles, it's pulling in a lot more of the details that are going to be pre-configured here. I would typically just use Maven package in the folder, and that could have worked fine. So now it's been compiled and we've pulled in the dependencies. I already did run this just prior, so it's not, you're not seeing those fresh dependencies pulled in, but they are there. So from here, now that we have those dependencies entered in, and the reason why you see 3 here, jump aside really quick, is because I downloaded the multi-project that had the JWT and the authorization code grant separate projects and the combined output with everything. So that's why you'll see those 3. All right, so what we'll want to do is click onto plugins to expand that, and then click on Spring Boot to expand that. And we're going to be picking Spring Boot Start. And so it's going to get going here, and it's going to be starting a Tomcat server instance, and it's going to link this Spring Boot application to it, and it will get started. So here we are. And this one's actually, this is pre-configured with the Quickstart, so you're not going to see an intro page. What you're going to see is the login prompt. So let's get started and click login. Oh, fascinating. Okay, so I believe you didn't see the, there's typically a, what am I trying to say? A scopes declaration, but it happens right at the beginning for a first-time user. I'm going to go ahead and switch this so you can kind of see what that would look like. All right. So this is asking me to restart the app because I've changed the API type. So to do that, let's just Spring Boot stop. And what occurs here when we do that quick start change is there's actually a config file here that we're setting here, see, and so this is going to be reread and detected on doing the Spring Boot start. If anybody in the audience has a fancier way of going about it, I would love comments. We'll happily take your feedback and utilize it. Oh, and what I had done there was I just simply clicked start and stop. So this is now that again. And see, this is what this is the consent prompt you would expect to see. Now, as you saw, I did actually kind of hijack this and start it with click so that I can have the click scopes. Your first time running this, you're going to see create and read envelopes and send envelopes. And that's going to be because that's going to occur because you're going to be using the scope signature right up here. Right. So let's just go ahead and cancel this and close it. Yeah, and that happened because we canceled it, obviously. So let's see. Oh, sorry. Right, and then there we go. All right, and then Spring Boot stop. And you've seen me kind of do this kind of often. Now, in the real world, like what I've been doing kind of in my day-to-day is not utilizing this. I tend to like use the command prompt and kind of keeping it as automated as I can or as agnostic as I can. And so what I've actually done is I've created a batch file. I just call it java.batch file. And I have this exposed in a folder on my machine, C aliases folder, where I'm actually just pointing to this from the path. So I can expose this Java file anywhere. See, so that's fun. And so what this file does here is it's doing the same steps with Maven. And I kind of always have it in the same order, so it should work regardless. So I have it stopping the web server, deleting the cache data, rerunning package to compile the data, and then starting the server again. And so running this java.bat file will consistently do these same steps that I'm doing here without needing to worry about that. All right. And I don't quite know why it's taken a bit, but it's doing its thing. So we're gonna wait. Let's see. We can close this. This is still going. I think it might have been because I tried to show you guys a bunch of things at once. All right. So we're gonna get started here, and it's asking us to log in because we've actually already we're jumping straight to the embedded signing example. And the way the launcher will work is it's wanting to see if you have an access token available. And so that's why that happens there. These are pre-filled out actually by the config file. This actually, nvar signer, is something I separately configured where I'm having this point to data that's not in the config file, but that's actually on my environment variable. So in case you're wondering why you don't see that when running fast, that's why. And so we clicked generate an envelope. And so this it was very quick. I'm sorry. But yeah, it has already redirected us to that embedded signing session. So let's click continue. And let's go ahead and give them our signature. And we can click finish. And you see it didn't matter. Clicking either finish worked. And so see, it already brought us back to our callback. And this is the state and the event this is the event that was provided by DocuSign. This is the state that we had specified when sending the envelope call out. And so this is verifying that, yeah, this is the data that you wanted to see. And that is how we would do an embedded envelope. Let's do another example here as well. Let's do the actual remote envelope. And so let's see, API office hours plus cc at email.com. CC viewer. And we send that. And this might take just a little bit of time because what is actually occurring is there's actually 3 documents that occur within this envelope. So it does take a little bit of time. Let's see, but that's it. We've sent this envelope. This is the envelope ID, and this is kind of the data associated with it. Let's see, is this, oh, it's not it, but let's see. Right, so this is that email document, right? And these are the 3 documents that were associated with it. And all of this is completely tailored and customizable in the envelope definition. I can show you all of that in just a moment here. See where I'm at time. Okay. Doing great on time. So I click continue. And then we'll click saved, saved, and saved. And these 3 documents are here, let's go ahead and sorry. Let's go back and take a look here. These 3 different documents are different kinds of documents. One's an HTML, one's a Word document, one's a PDF. And as you can see, it did convert all of them into PDFs. So that's that. So we'll go and click finish. And this was done through the email. So this is not going to have any sort of redirect or callback or anything like that. All right. And then last but not least, you might want to know the status changes. So let's see, list envelopes. I believe it's this, list envelopes. And so we used examples 1 and 2. So we should have a couple of envelopes, but there may be others as well. So we'll be able to see kind of them and ping that envelope information. And this method is something I'd recognize to kind of do an occasional one-off, or to basically determine kind of if you have a workflow in your system to where you're doing kind of multiple things and you're not necessarily going to be repeatedly pinging the status on this envelope, then this would be a good method. To use this method repeatedly would be called polling, and that would be an issue with going live. Because there is a limit for polling to where I believe you're not supposed to exceed polling of the same envelope more than once every 15 minutes. If you want to do that, I would suggest using DocuSign Connect and setting up a listening webhook instead. So yeah, as you can see, this is an extensive amount of data that is associated with each of the various envelopes that have been sent from this account within the last 30 days. So I'm going to switch gears a bit, and I'm actually going to go over Rooms, the Rooms API for you to kind of look at that and see kind of what that's about. So just as kind of before, we'll be switching our API to Rooms. And then just the same, this is going to want me to reset the application. But as I said, I like using this, and a nice trick about this is you can actually enter the commands here, even though it's still the web server and giving the output, you can actually send commands. So it will take that and realize that I can like reuse that. And so I've gone ahead and done that, and I'm reloading the app. Mhm. That's exciting, right? Looks like my computer's having a case of the Tuesdays. That's fine. While we're waiting for it to load, I'd say let's go ahead and take a look at this envelope definition. So the way that signing works is you'll typically within our source code files is you'll typically have a separate API call that's sending the envelope, and that's actually sending the envelope. And we have a separate envelope definition that is generated using a function that's called make envelope. And so there's going to be different make envelopes for the various examples that we have where we're sending an envelope to kind of fit with those associated attributes. And the way you'll be attaching a signature to a given envelope is there's different ways, but in this method, we're actually using anchor strings. And so this anchor string is expected to be somewhere within your document or your PDF, and that will be utilized to actually connect and attach them. So let's go ahead and pull one in, right? So, okay. Let's see. Open this in a browser, right? And then so there tends to be you see how that kind of does that? There's certain fields, right? And the fields are actually there, but the text is in white. And so it's how you can kind of still have the anchor strings present, but not present. And so that's what's occurring there. All right, so enough about that. Let's go ahead and take a look at this Rooms API, right? And as I was saying earlier at the beginning, is the way Rooms works is you think of Rooms as pretty much having like a completed area where you can have multiple envelopes and multiple pieces of data that are associated with a mortgage or real estate transaction. So let's get started by creating a room with data. And it's doing this same thing with this logging in action because we did have an access token, but you have to remember we're switching the APIs. And so that access token is not going to be applicable because we now need these different scopes. And so the very first time you log in to an API, or if the API has been updated and changed and you're using possibly a newer version of the SDK with newer methods, you're going to be presented with this prompt to ask you to grant consent for these various scopes that are associated with what you were trying to access. In this case, we are accessing DocuSign Rooms. And so we're going to be giving DocuSign permission access form, or sorry, we're going to be giving this integration, this Java Quickstart November 22nd permission on the DocuSign platform to access forms, to write user information, to read user information, update company level settings, and et cetera, et cetera. So let's click allow access to get going. And let's go ahead and create this room. And so this is going to be a bouncy castle, right? Okay, that's awesome. Oh, okay. So this is showing this way because I actually do need DocuSign Rooms configured with my account. And that was something I didn't account for. That's a shame. Let's move on. So since we're actually not configured to utilize that API, let's switch over to Click. So I can go ahead and give you guys a quick demo of that instead. Again, and as you saw, I just typed Java, and that is, I don't know, you could argue it's probably the same speed as clicking stop and then start. Yeah, I would argue it's the same speed. I suppose that what's nice about having it done this way for me personally is like it's less, what do you call that? Overhead, I suppose, mental overhead to have to remember this and that and this and that. And I suppose if I was not using this, if I was just using like IntelliJ, and it'd probably be different. I would just have like the play button here. Heck, I might actually have just had this and I could have configured this to sort of run and do sort of these sort of steps for me on my behalf. So it's something. I think part of this, the reason why this is slow is because I'm also doing the whole presenting and sharing. And so practically like this would be going faster if it was just me, but I have the audience here with me. So that's what I think is going on. Let's see, is there anything I would have liked to have gone over? Yeah, let's go and log me out. Not quite. Okay, so a click wrap is a click wrap is basically an overlay that you can put on top of a web page or on top of your application so that you can have a means to be able to collect that you have gotten consent to, say, some roles, some term of service, something on your end. But basically it's a way to have like means to say I've legally legally um I've legally gotten this click wrap, and or sorry, for legal purposes, this should be adequate to show that they had consented to this service. And ultimately, you can utilize the Click API to easily create and manage and overlay those click wraps on your own assets. Right. And so just as before, we're getting the scopes. We're going to be creating and managing click wraps and read agreements. And so this is going to be the November 8th. All right. And so this is that click wrap. It's good to go. You'll also need to activate a click wrap before using it. So make sure to activate it. Oh, look, there's the one from last month. How fun. I'll get deleted shortly. All right, so the click wrap is good to go. And we actually have an upcoming method where we can actually show you how you can use that click wrap as a test with dynamic data, but that should be coming soon. So that pretty much covers that. I think otherwise what you can do, and then what we can do in the meantime is we can test that click wrap. So I can show you what that would look like. Let's see. Yeah, let's put that. We're looking at time. Okay, so I've got about 8 minutes.
Actually, if you want to end a little earlier, we can go to Q&A, or you can show one more. Totally up to you, Aaron.
Yeah, I'll use this time. Just give me a couple more
Okay.
minutes. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's see. We're here. Right. Let's also talk about this. So this was the page that I was showing you much earlier in the demo. Let's presume you've gotten your API calls and you're good to go, and this has got enough API calls. So from here, you can click the Start Go Live Review, and that's where you would get that going. Right, and if you've noticed that, right when you have the 20 calls done, there is still a little bit of a delay. Like you're gonna need to just give it a little bit of time, and that should be fine. Right, so manage. And what we're doing right now is we're actually going into look at the various click wraps that have just kind of been, or the click wrap that was just created, and we're going to actually test that click wrap for now. So yes. Clickwrap user. Let's see. Can we put a space in here? Yeah, it looks like we could put a space in there. How cool is that? Test user test example.com. Yes, tester 01019000. Because why not? I like to see if these things are actually testing anything. Nope, it looks like it's a string. That's cool. All right, so right. This is what we've got, and this is the click wrap that you would see. And this is let's go go ahead and take a look back at the example itself, right? eSignature, click examples, create a click wrap. This is actually going to pull the service file, which is that file, right? So just create click wrap. Sorry about that. File document name. What's the document name? Terms of service? Might be. Oh, whoops. Document file name, terms of service. Right. So file explorer. This is that data, right? And see, we created this dynamically into the click wrap that's now here. And I noticed like you can try to go up here and it'll ask you to like review and scroll all the way down. So that's kind of cool. Accept the cookies, right? Because cookies taste great unless they spy on you, then they taste terrible. All right, and that's it. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers kind of what I was hoping to go over with you today. I wasn't able to go over DocuSign Rooms, and unfortunately that was because I believe we need to get DocuSign Rooms activated on that account. And you can talk to your, I believe it's called your client support specialist, or if not, you can reach out to us as well, and we will make sure to get that configured for you. So you should be able to utilize that as you're building your application. I'm going to get the slideshow back up so we can go over any questions or concerns or anything else. Let's see, what have we got?
All right. I think Paige and Kamran, do we have some questions that make sense for the whole group?
There was a question earlier about like having multiple recipients on an envelope, and especially if you're also using embedded signing for one of those recipients. So I don't know if you could go through maybe, I think in the remote signing, we have multiple recipients. You could kind of highlight how that works and how you would do that.
Okay, just a second. See, so that's what this is actually already. All right, right. And so let's see. It's all mainly like in the envelope definition is where that'll be configured. And so we've got we have two recipients, we have the signer and the carbon copy. And the way that'll work is you'll actually need to set it on the on each different object. And so here we go. Here's the signer object, and then here's a CC object. And within here, so this is using the Java SDK. And so it has these getter setters for you. Basically, you're going to have a signer client user ID, and you're going to, a signer client user ID. And that's how that person would get the, their specific document, like their envelope done through the embedded mechanism. Whereas if it doesn't have that client user ID, they would receive that email. And let's go ahead and quickly go over how the embedded signing works, because there are a couple of other steps. I would love to show you those steps. Okay. And so the way this goes is we have our, where's the envelope? Where's the envelope here? We have the envelope, right? And the envelope is generated. And then what happens from there is we will then send off the, we will then send off the like envelope just the same, except for once that envelope is generated with the envelope ID, we need to then generate a view URL. And that view URL, I'm sorry, we need to generate a view request, and the view request will have the view URL in it. And so, and these are all things, these are actual methods that are within the SDK. And so the way that'll work is, yeah, we will create this recipient view. This is that state that you saw, like where it was manually set. This is the callback, the set return URL is the callback URL. And you're going to need to make sure that this callback URL is actually pre-configured within your integration. And I'll show you that here, sorry. And then apps and keys is down here, right? Okay, and then how did it do that? Must have fat fingered something. Yep, that's what happened. Right, and so this is where you would need to add that redirect, so that when you send it back to, when DocuSign sends the user back, it'll be configured correctly. Right. Okay, yeah, and that's pretty much all of it. So yeah, this view request will have that URL in it, and you will pull that URL and just send it directly to your customer, and then click through that and begin the embedded signing session. Did that help or answer your question adequately?
I think that helped. We have another open question that I thought would be good to answer. So Jason in the Q&A is asking, their software solution needs something where it allows customers to create an app client ID and client secret in DocuSign on their own, and then enter it into their software's configuration options to use. For that part of it, I think that's actually what our launchers are doing. So maybe you could go over the config file a little bit and show those values. And then after that, the second part of the question is about JWT authentication and being able to send on behalf of users. So by using the request JWT user token method, so you might, if there's time, maybe you can kind of show where the JWT authentication is happening as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Let's close. There we go. All right. So this is the application config file, and this is going to be within resources. Let's see. Is there another one? I could have sworn it was. So I think it's source main resources. There we go. The source main resources. There's actually going to be this application.json. This is the one that was actually filled out for my Quickstart. I just kind of have an example one that's open. These different fields get filled out, like I said, automatically when downloading and running and configuring Quickstart. Specifically, the integration key, the impersonation user, which in this case is always going to be like your user when using the Quickstart, and the integration key and secret key for like auth code grant. This integration key auth code and this integration key JWT is going to be the same integration typically. So what you'll need to do from there is if you wanted to use JWT, The private key is already configured. Let's quickly, before running JWT, because you really don't see much, let's go ahead and look at the file itself. Here, I'll just go ahead and use the JWT console app because it's all kind of self-enclosed. And so it's a little bit easier to see kind of what's all happening. And so this is actually the redirect page that we are using for first-time user consent with the JWT console app. We did see that on the apps and keys page earlier. See right there. And so, right, we're just kind of asking them to prompt for information. And so we have the email, the name, and the carbon copy data. And then we are just literally kind of creating this kind of file properties like object, right? And this is ultimately going to, I think, generate this app config for you in real time, right? Okay, so let's see. These are the scopes, right? And for JWT scope, you're going to need to add impersonation. Let's see. Oh, I'm kind of short on time, but that's not a problem. And so what we're doing, right, is we're taking that private key file, that RSA private key file, that's going to be actually located out a level, kind of in the source resources. And we're then generating that token by using the request user JWT token. That's going to be on line 72 here. And so we're just adding the client ID, the user ID, which is that impersonated user, the scopes, which is signature impersonation, and the private key and the expiration time. And this is going to be 1 hour. This is in seconds. And JWT expiry is always going to be for our system and our configurations. There are no refresh tokens that are given for JWT, so you're just expected to run it again. However, keep in mind the very first time you run this app,
Hey, Aaron, I think we lost your audio. Can you repeat?
Oh, you done? Or we got a time? Sorry.
No, your audio just dropped off. So I was just asking if you could repeat what you just said.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. You said that, and I just saw my internet disconnect, reconnected. Okay. Where were we at? Well, we were talking about JWT, right?
Yeah, I think about like 5 seconds before where you were.
Okay, got it. So I was basically saying that, yeah, we're using the JWT user token method from the SDK, and we're pretty much populating the impersonated user GUID, which is this user ID. And we're going to be generating application consent. And so to generate application consent, I will just log in using JSON JWT, JSON web token, JWT. And what will happen is, because this is the very first time I'm using JWT with this user, I'm still prompted to log in. I just want to point that out. Like, you'll still have to grant the scoped consent here. Okay. It's kind of the nature of how it is. And so let's log out, and then we'll log back in again with JWT. And you'll see it will just run. It won't actually prompt or anything. I'll just directly click back over to run. And that's it. Okay, I see a quick question here. How do we keep a tab on progress of the document in this case? And would the finally signed document be shipped back to the app on its own? So the document itself isn't like sent anywhere, so to speak. What occurs is that the status is updated, and that does live within your developer account. Let's see how I get to. I can go to here. Yeah, like that will live in your developer account. You'll be able to kind of retrieve those documents there at that point in place.
Just to
What
add
you
to that a
can-
little bit, we might
Sorry. you can say,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you.
I was gonna say what you can do is you can use DocuSign Connect to subscribe to status events so that you can get a webhook when the status of the envelope is set to complete, and then you can use that to also retrieve the document as well, like within that mechanism. And there actually is here, let me show you. We have added in a file, like an HMAC Connect listener file that you can use to, here we go. See, it's called this HTTPS Connect webhook HMAC validation. You can kind of utilize this along with the example that we kind of show in the Developer Center to configure DocuSign Connect to listen to completed envelope events and to actually send them to a webhook that you control. And that way your application would be able to do as you're asking, and subscribe to events and handle logic accordingly based on those events. And so we've got another one here. As a first step of integration, the MVP, if you will, we'd simply like to have users authenticate via OAuth functionality from various locations in our app. They would launch DocuSign, would send the clients and files of payload to DocuSign and redirect them so they can complete the creation of the. Yes, I can. So that is going to be, I believe, called the so what I was going to show is that we have something that's called embedded sending, and embedded sending would allow you to basically pre-configure what will be shown in the envelope before it gets sent off to your client. However, it's also possible to just kind of send a blank envelope with just the documents and nothing on it, and then the client will actually see they'll see the empty like envelope, and they'll actually see a view to where they can modify the they can put in their signatures and kind of fill in that data. I don't recommend doing that because you're now putting the control on your end user on where they'd want to sign, and you necessarily needing to go in and validate it after the fact. If at all possible, I would just set up a composite template so that it would have the signature location in all possible cases for that specific type of user, or possibly I would branch and segment it off so you can have parts of the template that apply to, your different use cases so that it generates the composite template once it's ready. My opinion. All right.
I think that's all the time we have, Aaron, for questions. Thank you so much.
Well, all right. Thank you, everyone. And by the way, if you are an American, it is Tuesday. Please vote. This is the election. Important.
Yes, definitely. And Aaron, could you go back to the last two slides for the resources? Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I think we got to everyone's questions, but if you have more or if you need any help, we have a number of resources. I've also posted them in the Slack channel there. The Developer Center, you can start with your Quickstart and getting started at developers.docusign.com. You can reach out to Stack Overflow and tag DocuSign API for a community response. You can place a ticket with the Support Center, support.docusign.com. Or you can contact us by email at developers@docusign.com to get further questions answered. We also have our DocuSign University has lots of great training schedules today. I think Sasha, one of our trainers, is actually on this afternoon. So super appreciate him being here, and they're a great resource. We've got developer blogs. We have more webinars coming up too. You can always hop into another API office hours or one of our developer webinars, and we'd be happy to help answer questions throughout. And then we've got some great videos on our YouTube channel too at youtube.com/DocuSign for developers. Next slide. So what we didn't cover today was the partner path. There is a slightly different path that you follow if you're an ISV partner, for example. So we've got some great documentation on the Developer Center. You can go to developers.docusign.com/partner/integration-guide/getting-started-ISV. And that will get you to the integration guide selector, and you can go from there. We've also got some information about composite template models that are great for the partner track. And then if you want to become a partner, you can reach out to us at the partner portal, sign up, and then you can also email partners@docusign.com for help. So I think that wraps up everything today. I posted in the chat to please be sure to take our post-webinar survey as well. Tell us what you'd like to see for future topics and how we did today. And then finally, I would also like to thank Erin for leading the webinar and doing such a great job, and Paige and Cameron for addressing all the questions that came in today. And most of all, thank you to all of you, our attendees, for joining us. Have a great remainder of your day, everyone.